So you've closed one chapter and you're at the beginning of a whole new one. When I finished my A levels, I thought that my life was going to slow down and I was going to get time to just rest and not be thinking about anything. But to my surprise, that's when the pressure actually began. As someone who knew that I wanted to go to university or college, as some people may call it, I had the pressure of thinking about scholarship opportunities, the choices to make, where to study, because I also knew that I didn't want to study back home in Zimbabwe. So if you're feeling this kind of pressure, this video is for you. I understand that there's a lot of different things that you can do after finishing your A levels. Some people don't immediately want to go to college, and that's fine. But this video is centered for is mainly centered around um, advice for people who want to go to university or college. So whether you want to take a gap year first and then go to college afterwards, as long as you have the goal of going to college sometime after your A levels, this video is for you. So stay tuned. Right. So my time after A level was a bit of a stressful period. I think it was one of the most stressful periods of my life, if I may put it that way. Even more stressful than the exams themselves that I had to write for my A levels. And that was because I had made up my mind that I wanted to study outside of the country, but things just weren't working the way that I wanted them to. For example, I had sent out a lot of applications to some US schools, and the schools that were accepting me were not giving me the amount of aid that I required to be able to go there. And the way that I was doing things, like I didn't really have a feasible plan. I had put all of my eggs in one basket initially, and by one basket I mean colleges in the US specifically, and I was not looking at colleges in other places. Right. So my first piece of advice based on my experience is, if you know that you want to study somewhere outside of your home country, and you know that you're looking to go there through some form of financial aid or scholarship, keep your options wide and do your research. Look at what are some available options to you. Have more than at least one country that you consider. Yes. And then, yeah, so the first point is that you should start your research early. So, in as much as you're getting into this period of rest where you're not thinking about academics and stuff like that, I do recommend that you start doing your search early. Because when it comes to universities, the interesting thing is sometimes the deadlines even coincide with like times when people are writing their A level exams. For example, in the US system, they have early decision one and early decision two deadlines, and if I remember correctly, those deadlines actually were in the period that I was writing my A level exams. So it's important that you do your research and research widely about the options that are available and make sure that you're keeping in mind when the deadlines are so that you can schedule your times of rest and the times when you're working on your uni applications very well. And so, whilst we're still on that issue of doing your research early for someone who wants to go to uni, these days, especially if you're someone who wants to get like scholarship opportunities, scholarships are very, very competitive, like extremely competitive, because there are so many bright people who are doing so many amazing things. So you need to find a way to make yourself stand out. And if you're someone like me, or who I was back then, you're probably someone who didn't do a lot of extracurricular activities when you were still in high school. Because when I was in A level, I wasn't really interested in doing a lot of extracurricular activities, but I had to find a way to make myself stand out afterwards. And one of the ways that I did that was I took a gap year before going to uni, and during that gap year, I got some work experience. I went back to intern at the organization that I was once a student at. It's called Star Leadership Academy. So I went and interned there, and the work experience was one of the ways that I made myself stand out. So do things that can make you stand out for scholarship opportunities. They don't have to be extravagant things. If you can get some work experience, get some. And it doesn't always have to be like working with like a proper established organization like I did. It's all about, at the end of the day, when it comes to uni applications, it's all about how you explain it, right? So you can maybe, if at your home you have a shop or you have a tuck shop, you can just go and help out there and be maybe a sales rep or something of the sort. That could work as work experience as well. So just make sure that you're doing something that's useful with your time, that you can then explain and make yourself stand out when you eventually apply. So, some examples of making yourself stand out are work experience, like I've already mentioned, volunteering. Yes, and volunteering could be maybe you see some charity organizations that are championing causes that you're passionate about. You can join them when they go on one of their activities and volunteer and help out. You can also do your own individual volunteering, maybe go back to your former school, tutor some students there, maybe start a virtual tutoring program. There's so many options that are available to you. You can also start something of your own. Yeah, so one of the things that I started by myself that also helped me to stand out when I was doing my uni applications was starting my own handcrafted jewelry business. It's called Gems Adorned. So if you start something of your own as well, that's also a way to make yourself stand out, and make sure you're keeping track of all of these things that you're doing, so that when you eventually have to write your application, you don't run out of things to say, so that you know what you've been doing. You've been keeping track of the, like for example, if you're working, you keep track of the activities that you do when you're working. Like for example, when I was interning at Star Leadership Academy, my work was mainly centered around interacting with the students, helping them with their action plans, making sure that their stay at the academy was a good one. Yes. So make sure you're keeping track of the activities that you're doing. And the third piece of advice that I have for people who've just finished their A levels is work on some personal development. I know you're probably tired, you probably don't want to see books again in your life for a while because you will see them, but do factor in some time to work on some personal development. And this can be in different ways. Learn a new skill. If you didn't know how to maybe braid hair, go and learn how to do it. Just do some new fun things, read books. And one of the books that I recommend that really spoke to me during the period when I had finished my A levels is called Defining Decade. So if you can get a hold of that book, I would highly recommend that you read it, because it talks a lot about young people and how the activities that we do when we're still young have an effect on how the rest of our life will go. So I'd highly recommend that you do something like that. And then so I've spoken about reading books, learning new skills, also network. If you can attend events, I know that in Zim, when we finished our A levels, there were lots of events like hosted by organizations like Education USA, boot camps on university preparations and applications. If you can attend those things, network with people, and yeah, you never know the opportunities that would arise from there. And then, speaking of learning new skills, one of the reasons why I would say it's important to learn new skills is because you develop more interests. Like when I was in A level, I didn't really have a lot of time to do other things besides things that were related to my academics. So when I finished, I was able to now start exploring other interests that I had. That's when I started my content creation. And this YouTube channel is one of the things that I also started after doing my A levels. And I realized that it was something that I loved to do. I loved sharing youth empowerment content with young people. And it's something that I continued with. So if you try out new things, you end up discovering things that you're good at and things that you like. And you never know where that will take you. And my fourth piece of advice is rest. Yes. So, in as much as I've spoken about all these other productive things that you should do, you should also make time to intentionally rest. You've worked hard. You've studied for your exams. You've spent sleepless nights working on past papers. You deserve to get some rest. So make sure you're being intentional about the ways that you rest, and rest in ways that actually make you feel like you're relaxing. And for some people, that may mean just lying on a bed for a few hours or minutes, no phone, no laptop, no digital media, just lying down. For some people, it might mean doing relaxing activities like maybe meditation, exercising. I don't know, but you know best what feels like rest to you. So make sure you do that. One of the things that I'm glad I did, because okay, backstory is I took a gap year after my A levels, and during the gap year, that's when I went to intern at the place called Star Leadership Academy that I was mentioning earlier. And my contract initially was for 6 months. And when I finished my 6 months, I renewed my contract. So the new contract was supposed to span the rest of the 6 months of the year. And I was supposed to come to Ashiesi in January the following year. So that would mean that I would spend my whole year working. And when I was working, I actually was staying at my workplace. So I didn't have time to spend with family and stuff like that. And I'd been a boarder all my years of high school. So one of the things that I did is that when I was now renewing my contract, I made sure that I would have time to rest before going to school. So instead of doing the 6 months after my first initial 6 months, I did five, and I had a full month of resting, spending time with family, and preparing before I went to school. And I'm really glad that I did that, because when I eventually came to uni, I realized that that was a whole new level of work again. And I'm just always glad that I took the time out to rest when I could. So, yes, I hope that you find these tips useful. Congratulations to you for finishing A level. If you've gotten to this point of the video and you like the tips that I've shared, please make sure to like the video and subscribe. One of the things that I wanted to mention as well is that this video is dedicated to my star students, the class of 2023, for whom I was a student advisor. I just heard that they've most of them has have completed their A levels, and I'm so excited for them. And they were there for me in a period where I was stressed out and I was thinking about my uni options and stuff like that. So yeah, I know that they're probably getting into that season where they're going to be in the position where I was, but I'm just giving this information so that for them it's a little bit easier. So thank you guys for watching my video. I hope you find the tips useful. If you do, share this video with someone else who you think will find it useful, and see you on the next one.